Ilmu-ilmu multidisiplin difokuskan untuk dikembangkan di bawah Sekolah Kajian Strategik dan Global. Karena itu diharapkan nantinya lulusan yang ada dari Sekolah Kajian Strategik dan Global akan bisa lebih berkontribusi besar dalam hal-hal yang bersifat strategis nasional maupun internasional.
Terletak di pusat kota Jakarta, Sekolah Kajian Strategik dan Global memfasilitasi proses-proses kreatif dan berpikir kritis untuk mewujudkan keilmuan yang bersifat strategis dalam menghadapi tantangan global melalui berbagai program studi di dalamnya.
Jadi ilmu-ilmu itu harus berkolaborasi, menggunakan metode-metode yang menjadi baru akhirnya. Itulah yang diramu di SKSG ini, yang dibina atau dibimbing oleh para pakar dari berbagai bidang dan profesor.
Program Magister Kajian Ketahanan Nasional. Program Magister Kajian Pengembangan Perkotaan. Program Magister Kajian Gender. Program Magister Kajian Wilayah Eropa. Program Magister Kajian Wilayah Amerika. Program Magister Kajian Wilayah Timur Tengah dan Islam. Program Magister Kajian Wilayah Jepang. Program Magister Kajian Ilmu Kepolisian. Program Magister Kajian Terorisme. Program Doktor Kajian Strategik Global.
Kami percaya SKSG dapat mengantarkan mahasiswa menjadi lulusan yang siap menghadapi tantangan global sesuai zamannya dan kompetensi yang mereka miliki dalam menghadapi kondisi masyarakat dengan berbagai kompleksitas.
Tentunya ini juga akan memberikan kontribusi yang sangat besar ya, dalam membangun Indonesia ke depannya, ya, apalagi Indonesia Emas tahun 2045.
Tenaga pengajar yang berkualitas dan berdedikasi dengan latar belakang akademisi dan praktisi berpengalaman di setiap bidangnya.
Tenaga pengajar di sini tentunya sangat-sangat profesional, berpengalaman, dan juga tentunya ahli dalam masing-masing bidang keilmuannya. Dan tentunya bermanfaat buat kita semua.
Sekolah Kajian Strategik dan Global Universitas Indonesia menghasilkan magister dan doktor yang siap menghadapi tantangan global.
Pendekatan ketika mempelajari sesuatu itu dari berbagai perspektif gitu, karena berbagai latar belakang ilmu pengetahuan dipakai untuk mengkaji satu fenomena gitu.
Dengan berbagai insight-insight yang saya dapatkan dari berbagai multidisiplin yang saya dapatkan selama berkuliah di sini, saya menjadi lebih yakin dan lebih semangat dalam menghadapi berbagai masalah global yang akan saya hadapi nantinya.
Sekolah Kajian Strategik dan Global Universitas Indonesia siap untuk berkolaborasi, membangun bangsa untuk dunia yang lebih baik. Think Strategic and Global.
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to seek your cooperation. Kindly switch your mobile phone to silent mode to avoid interruptions. Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In these beautiful occasions, I would like to welcome our distinguished guests firstly. The Honorable, the Dean of School of Strategic and Global Studies, Universitas Indonesia, Mr. Athor Subroto, Ph.D. The Honorable, the Board of Trustees Indonesia-Turkiye Alumni Foundations, Mr. Syaukilah, Ph.D. The Honorable, Ambassador of the Republic of Turkey to Indonesia, Professor Dr. Talip Küçükcan. The Honorable, our moderator, Mr. Syaroni Rofii, Ph.D. And our lecturer, Mr. Isdian Dr. Isdian, and all respected professors and lecturers and all participants present at this event. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to Universitas Indonesia. Thank you for joining Ambassador Lecture, Indonesia-Turkiye Relations and the Dynamics of Global Challenges. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Anissa Mauldi Alfian, a postgraduate student of School of Strategic and Global Studies, Universitas Indonesia. On these occasions, allow me to convey for today's agenda as follows. The first agenda will be opening, continue with Indonesia National Anthem and Turkey National Anthem, opening remarks, continue with presentation of gift by Universitas Indonesia, the Ambassador Lecture agenda, Q&A sessions, continue with group photo, and the last will be closing. The Honorable distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to honor our country, let us sing Indonesia National Anthem and Turkey National Anthem. The participants, please stand. Please return to your seat. Ladies and gentlemen, the next agenda is opening speech by the moderator. To Mr. Syaroni Rofii, please come to the stage.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, thank you to the Master of Ceremony for the time. The second one, of course, I would like to give the highly appreciation to His Excellency Professor Dr. Talip Küçükcan, Ambassador of Turkey to Indonesia. His Excellency is actually a professor, but at the moment his job as an ambassador. So when ambassador come to the campus, it's like fish come to the sea. The second one, thank you to our college, Pak Saukillah, as part of Turkish alumni, and then lecturer of School of Strategic and Global Studies, and then Pak Isdian, also lecturer in School of Strategic and Global Studies, and then of course our beloved student from National Resilience Studies, because at the moment it's compulsory, Ojam. They have to come because at the same time this is their schedule to attend the lecture. So they have to come. Most of the time we use Zoom meeting for lecture, but at the moment we invite you to give them lecture from perspective of ambassador regarding the issue of migration and so on, and global challenges. And then of course I also would like to give thank you to our fellow from Turkish Alumni Association, and then of course our partner from Forma. Forma is Student Association of School of Strategic and Global Studies Association, yeah. So postgraduate association, yeah, in SKSG. So because of this participation and collaboration, this event can be organized this afternoon. And without further ado, I would like to say again thank you for Ambassador for come to us and give us a lecture to our student regarding the issue of global challenges that faced by many countries in the world. I think that's all from me. Thank you, Mbak Nisa.
Thank you, Mr. Syaroni. Please give. Thank you, Mr. Syaroni, for your delightful speech. Ladies and gentlemen, the ambassador lecture is going to start. Then we call our honorable moderator, Mr. Syaroni Rofii, to come and guide the event all the way. Pak Syaroni, the stage is yours. Please give applause.
Okay, yeah, actually at the moment our director couldn't attend this meeting. That's why I will I have to position as opening remarks and moderator. And then now we call ambassador to the floor to join us here. Okay. So today we will speak in English. If ambassador speak in Turkish, the only one and Mr. Sauki can understand what ambassador say. Okay. So without further ado, we give floors to Ambassador to give his insight regarding international issues. Buyurun hocam.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Mohammed and the School of Strategic and Global Studies of University of Indonesia and all of you for inviting me and also for coming and spending your time with me. Actually, I take a special pleasure to be with you, with students, with academics, with intellectuals. As Mohammed has said, I come from university. I was teaching at the university before I was appointed as an ambassador. And of course, coming to Indonesia is another pleasure for me because my first encounter with Indonesian politics culture started a long time ago when I was a student at the School of Oriental and African Studies in London in the early 1990s. I had some friends from Indonesia. That was the first time I actually started learning about Indonesian culture, society, politics. The first batik I have seen was in London, not in this country. And some of the, of course, spicy food that we shared with our Indonesian friends. Now I am getting used to the food here. Indonesia, although far away from Turkey, very special for us for a number of reasons. If you look at the map, actually, the distance between Indonesia and Turkey is about 10,000 kilometers, very, very long. But of course, we are living in a global age now, through communications, through different means. Now, the borders are not longer as important as they were before. Indonesia is important for Turkey and for the region for several reasons, as I said. You have a young and dynamic population, one of the youngest actually in the world. And of course, when you look at the demographic structure of Indonesia, it is the fourth biggest country. And from the Muslim perspective, it is the largest Muslim democracy. I think these are important characteristics of the country. And also very influential, of course, in the ASEAN region, the big economy. You are part of G20. And when you look at the growth rate of Indonesia, it is doing quite well. From all these perspectives, of course, when we look at Turkish-Indonesian relations, we give a lot of, I think, attention and importance to Indonesia for the reasons I have explained. But when we look at the relations between the two countries, there is also a historical background. Currently, I will be talking about the relations between our two countries, but when we look at the historical relations before the establishment of nation states, modern Turkish state or modern Indonesian state, our relations go back to the 16th century, when the Sultanate in Aceh established relations with the Ottoman Empire. We have seen that the first contact actually started in the 16th century. We are talking about almost 500 years of relations between the people of Indonesia and people of Turkey or the Ottoman Empire. And the first consulate was opened in 1883 in Batavia. Many of us do not know this, even in Turkey. When we look at the relations between Indonesia and Turkey, everybody starts looking at the modern period, like 1940s. But the relations actually go back to the history and much deeper. And I think that strengthens the relations between Turkey and Indonesia because of the cultural background, because of the historical background and the proximity. When we look at the religion, the dominant religion in two countries, when you look at the democratic structures and also the coexistence of religion and democracy, coexistence of religion and secularism, I think there are a lot of similarities between Indonesia and Turkey, which I think, again, a factor that contributes closer relations between our countries. And the consulate in Batavia continued to exist until 1924. That is the time when Turkey was established. So there was a period of independence war in Turkey after the fall of the Ottoman Empire. And today, the consulate building is used as a museum, and one day, hopefully, we can also meet there. It's a museum of, I think, batik. Yes, right. And of course, our relations between Turkey and Indonesia in the modern period, of course, revitalized when Turkey recognized the establishment of Indonesia as an independent state in 1949. And right 1 year later, after the recognition of Indonesia, our diplomatic relations formally started in 1950. The opening of embassy took place in 1957. Next year, hopefully, we are going to celebrate the 75th anniversary of diplomatic relations between our countries. And I'm hoping that we can also have some events here at the university in the strategic school of global studies, some academic maybe activities, some panels, so that we can celebrate the relations between Turkey and Indonesia as two friendly and brotherly countries. Of course, the relations are not only diplomatic. Diplomatic relations are there, but for a long time, because of the distance that I have just mentioned, and also because of the priorities of these two countries, our relations were not very close. Because Turkey was in the Middle East, in Europe, in Asia, and after the establishment of a modern Turkish Republic, the priorities of our foreign policy and orientation of Turkish foreign policy was mainly towards Western alliance, toward the Western world. Of course, we had some relations with Eurasia, with Balkans, with the Middle East and Africa, but the dominant, I think, factor in our foreign relations was Europe, West, US, NATO, right? And of course, when you look at the foreign policy of Indonesia in the 1940s and 50s, again, the dominant and most salient aspect of your foreign policy was based on relations in this region, in Southeast Asia. Of course, you had relations with Europe, with maybe Middle East, with US, but when you look at the ASEAN countries, when you look at the regional actors, by nature, because of the geographical location of the countries, our countries actually concentrated on their own regional perspectives and interests. However, after the Cold War, I think both countries have designed their foreign policy. In your constitution, you have a principle, active and free foreign policy. And I think in the Turkish foreign policy, we have a similar picture, but maybe we have a different concept. We call it, for example, strategic autonomy, and foreign policy dynamism and activism, zero problem with the neighboring states. I think these are similar notions in our foreign policy perspectives. Of course, when Turkey's foreign policy have become more diversified, Turkey started to discover or rediscover the value, importance, and significance of Southeast Asia, including, of course, Indonesia. Today, when we look at the relations between our countries, we can look at few areas. Of course, politics is an important area of relationships. Because when the political relations are friendly, when the political relations are good, the other source of relations like security, defense, education, culture, economy follows that. And I think at the moment, the political relations between Indonesia and Turkey are extremely good. That means there is a very fertile ground on which we can improve our relationships, we can consolidate our relationships in all areas that we can think of. Now let's look at first political relations, diplomatic relations. So when we look at the diplomatic relations, for a long time, as I said, we did not have really very high-level contacts between Turkey and Indonesia. Yes, of course, there have been some bilateral visits between the countries, but it was not on the strategic levels. But what happened later, after 2000s actually, when Justice and Development Party came to power in Turkey, Turkish foreign policy was redefined to be more active and also more diversified. Not only in the Southeast Asian context, but also in the Middle Eastern context, in the Euro-Asian context, in the African context as well. So I will come to that a little bit later, but let me concentrate on Turkey-Indonesia relations first. Turkey and Indonesia, politically speaking, as I said, very friendly. We are members of the same organizations. We are in the UN. We are in the Organization of Islamic Countries. We are in the MICTA, together with other 4 countries, 5 members of MICTA. We are in G20. We are in D8. You can see there are several platforms. Turkey and Indonesia are working together. And I think until now, we have no crisis, no problem, no obstacles. That means everything is on the right track between Turkey and Indonesia. Of course, that has some sort of reflections on other areas. Last G20 summit was held in Bali in 2022 under the leadership of Indonesia. By the way, I would like to congratulate Indonesia, its leadership during the ASEAN leadership and also during the G20 leadership. I think your foreign ministry, your political leadership have really completed the mission very successfully. And during that 2 years, I think the profile of Indonesia in the global world became much well known. It was a very high profile, I think, situation for the Indonesian foreign policy. Actually, during the G20 summit, there was an agreement between Turkey and Indonesia. Our relations actually now became a high-level strategic council relations. That is the highest level of relations between the 2 states. What that means for Turkey and Indonesia, when there is a high-level strategic council structure, presidents, leaders of the governments, ministers actually come together. We are hoping that in 2025, maybe the first quarter of 2025, either in Turkey or in Indonesia, we are hoping to have this presidential meetings plus cabinet meetings, which will produce many agreements as well as many areas of cooperation. We are hoping that if we can have this meeting in 2025, that happens every year. 1 year in Indonesia, 1 year in Turkey, or the vice versa. Then all areas will be established as our relations move forward. I think that is very critical. From the Indonesian perspective, Turkey is also a critical country because, as I will mention a little bit later, when you imagine Turkey's place on the map, it is located geopolitically, actually, and geo-economically at a very critical juncture between Europe and Asia, between Middle East and Europe. So Turkey's geopolitical and geo-economic location is critically important, which makes Turkey as a gate to Europe and to Middle East and to North Africa for many, many actually countries. Now let's look at of course, this is the political relationship, and there is a really promising future for our political relationships. But let's look at how economic relations are between our countries. Of course, when we talk about economic relations, we talk about investments, we talk about trade volume, we talk about import and export. The current trade volume between Turkey and Indonesia is very, very low. It's about $2.5 billion. Indonesia exports $2 billion of goods to Turkey, whereas Turkey only exports $500 million of goods. So that means our trade volume is still very low. Our leaders actually, when they meet together in different forums, in the last forum, for example, in Bali in 2022, they said our aim is to increase the trade volume to $10 billion. Again, when you look at the economies, because we are both G20 economies actually, quite big economies in the world, our trade volume is still in the very, I think, formative stage. So we need to invest in both countries, and we need to encourage our businessmen, tradesmen, and investors, so that economically, both countries can benefit from each other. That means there is a lot of potential for both countries to invest economically. We are encouraging our government, we are encouraging our public institutions and also private industry actually to invest in this country. There is one big Turkish company, it's called Indokartsa, just half an hour away from here on the outskirts of Jakarta. It is a big investment, actually, employing more than 1,400 Indonesians. And it's a taxpayer in this country. And they have a lot of exports as well. Again, there are some other companies, they are trying to come over here, especially in the area of construction, health services, education, and also defense industry. So again, from an economic perspective, of course, because of the proximity of other countries, Indonesia has much deeper and wider and more comprehensive economic relations with China, with Australia, Japan and Korea, and Malaysia and Singapore. We understand this, but there is also a potential out there in Turkey, because Turkey is a gate to Europe and European Union, where you have 600 million people who are really wealthy, and they can really contribute to Indonesian economy through Turkey. I think as people who are interested in Turkish-Indonesian relations, maybe we can also take this economic aspect of the relations into account. Of course, one of the most important areas of cooperation between Turkey and Indonesia is the defense industry. In recent years, Turkish companies and Indonesian companies come together to explore avenues of cooperation. And in recent years, actually, Indonesian government purchased a number of goods, defense industry products from Turkey, and there are MOUs signed between Indonesian defense industry companies and Turkish companies, especially on drone, because the drones that are produced in Turkey are quite famous. Currently, actually, in 34 countries, Turkish drones are really are flying for different purposes. So there is a huge demand for Turkish defense industry products in the last decades. This is something to do with the foreign policy orientation of Turkey, using hard power as an instrument of being influential, which I will come to that a little bit later when I talk about specific on Turkish foreign policy. And of course, culturally, we have a lot of avenues of, I think, cooperation between Turkey and Indonesia. As I said, we are both dominantly Muslim countries. There's an Islamic culture, heritage, and legacy in both countries that people can enjoy if they visit. And also, of course, education is another area of cooperation. As Muhammad, who is sitting next to me, he is the graduate of Turkish University. I think this is something that we should continue. Currently, 4,500 Indonesian students are getting their university education in Turkey, actually, either on the graduate or postgraduate levels. And this is also supported by the Turkish government scholarships. So we provide a number of scholarships for Indonesian students if they want to come and study in Turkish universities. This is another area of cooperation. We are talking about almost 5,000 students with their families. The number is more. In almost every Turkish city, actually, you have a small Indonesian community now. And also a very strong body of student cooperation and student association. And also we have here, again, Turkish Association of Students. Mohammed is leading that institution with other friends of Turkey. I think education is an important area. Now we are inviting some Turkish universities here to cooperate and to sign memorandum of understanding to exchange students, to exchange academic staff, to exchange academic projects. I think this is another important area of cooperation. And also something is on the pipeline, maybe I should mention it briefly. We are trying to establish a Turkish research center in the under the umbrella of University of Indonesia. And if that happens, of course, the academic research on both countries will increase. So we will have more experts on Indonesia, and also in Indonesia, you will have more experts on Turkey. I think there is a gap in terms of producing knowledge about our countries. When I was appointed as an ambassador to your country, of course, I have read many books in English on Indonesia. There are hundreds of books. The first book that I have read about your country, actually, it was written by Clifford Geertz, Religion in Java. It was an anthropological work, which was, I think, written in the 1960s, a long time ago. And later on, I have also read some of his other books as well. And also, when I was appointed, I checked whether there were any Turkish books in Turkish on Indonesian society, culture, economic, politics. There was none whatsoever. There are some articles, there are a few maybe books, but there is no comprehensive and current book on Indonesia in Turkish language, which means there is a lack of knowledge. When there is a lack of knowledge, that means there is a lack of understanding. That's why I urge you, Mohammed, and all others, to write books on your country so that we can translate them into Turkish and we can publish in Turkey with the help of our government. So we need this information about your country. That will help intellectuals, that will help politicians, that will also help people from the private sector to invest if they know more about the country, more about the legal aspects, investment structures and investment environment about Indonesia. So these are, I think, the main parameters of the relationship between Turkey and Indonesia when it comes to our foreign policy issues. But of course, when we talk about foreign policy, maybe I need to remind you a number of things about Turkey, then we can move on to global challenges like migration, like terrorism, like the conflicts, global warming, etc. Turkish foreign policy may be divided into two main, let's say, periods. One is the Cold War period, the other one is post-Cold War period. Of course, during the Cold War, until the 1990s, Turkey followed more or less the NATO path, more or less the Western alliance, because there was a threat of communism, there was a threat, perceived threat from the Soviet Union, there was an ideological confrontation between East and the West. Therefore, Turkish foreign policy was very much aligned with the Europe, with the West, with the NATO, because Turkey became member of the NATO in 1952, which was quite early. That's why Turkish foreign policy was actually shaped by such concerns. But after the Cold War, a new opportunity, new windows of opportunities, I would say, were opened for Turkey and for many other countries. When the Soviet Union was collapsed, we have seen the establishment of many nation states, like many Turkic states in Asia or in Europe. We have seen in the Eastern Europe the establishment of many new nation or independent states. So that has created a new environment for many. And also in Turkey, the mood has changed. Yes, the main orientation was towards the West, towards European Union, towards maybe a transatlantic relationship, but also Turkey started to rediscover its environment, its periphery, starting from Middle East and North Africa. Because of Turkish modernization story, because of the orientation of Turkish westernization in the last 200 years, our foreign policy orientations were also marked by that, I think, perception. That's why the Middle East and North Africa, like Southeast Asia, were a little bit neglected by the Turkish decision makers of the time. And as I said, the security concerns, ideological concerns, and historical legacy played an important role in such, I think, positioning of Turkish foreign policy. But in the last 20 years, especially, as I said, with the rise of Justice and Development Party, we have seen that this party has actually redesigned Turkish foreign policy. For example, we had a concept of zero problems with the neighboring countries, which means peace in the region, stability in the region. That's why Turkey decided to advance and increase its ties with the neighboring countries for and foremost, with Syria, with Iraq, with Iran, with the Gulf countries, with Northern Africa. And we have lifted visa, for example, visas with Jordan, with Lebanon, with Iraq, with Syria. And I could tell you that before 2010, when the Arab Spring has started, because that has changed the dynamics in the region, many of the people from the Arab world could come to Turkey without visa with their own cars. They could travel in Turkey. Of course, that has really contributed to increased relations between Turkish people and the Arab world. And economically as well. The trade between Turkey and Arab world started to jump compared to the previous years. You can see that Turkish foreign policy has really changed in the beginning of 2000, and later on, of course, as I said, became much more closer to the region. And Turkey also started to launch Africa Year, South American Year, and also South Asian year as well. You can see that diversification of foreign policy has also started after 2000 in Turkey. And as part of this, for example, we have Asia Again project. Turkish foreign policy decision makers actually decided that we need to have a refocus on Asia by Turkey, because we have done it with Africa, and Turkey's trade volume with Africa jumped. Again, with Middle Eastern countries, we have really very close relations. And also in the Balkans, in the Eurasian states, you can see that diversification or multiplication of Turkish foreign policy have really achieved a lot of objectives and targets. But at the time, there was a discussion, both in Turkey and outside Turkey. Many of the people said, outside Turkey, that Turkey is going through axis of change or shift of axis. Once upon a time, many people argued that Turkey was part of Europe, part of NATO, but now Turkey is moving towards Middle East, towards Asia, towards Southeast Asia. So that is interpreted as a shift of axis. But Turkish foreign policy makers, decision makers, interpret this in a different way. It is not a shift of axis, but actually it is the balancing of Turkish foreign policy and also establishing relations with other countries, not only Europe and NATO. Of course, Turkish foreign policy is still anchored in Europe and in NATO. There's no doubt about it. And Turkey is also part of all these European organizations, like Turkey is in the OECD, Turkey is in the Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE. Turkey is in Council of Europe, actually, and Turkey would like to become full member of the European Union. So our objective is still, of course, to be part of European Union, because historically speaking, Turkey has always expanded towards Europe, and it is part of Europe anyway. And today we have got more than 6 million diaspora living in many European countries. That is also a very, I think, close connection between Turkey and many European Union countries. Of course, when we look at the relations between Turkey and European Union, Turkey has a lot of, I think, benefits from that relationships, although we are not full members at the moment. But Turkey, beginning from the 2000s onwards, started to change its laws in accordance with the European Union laws. And if we look at the democratic standards in Turkey, if we look at life standards, standards of education, standards of workers, women, etc., we have seen a lot of improvements thanks to the Turkey's journey to the European Union. But currently, the relations are almost frozen. Turkey would like to further European Union membership, but the European Union side is not that willing for several reasons. But of course, Turkey is also exploring to become active member of the international community outside the European Union. That's why sometimes Europeans and Westerners criticize Turkey, whether Turkey is moving towards East, towards Asia, towards Middle East, towards the Muslim world. However, as I said, Turkey's foreign policy has some priorities, like your foreign policy. As Indonesia has a foreign policy objective of being a neutral, for example. Neutrality is one of the parameters of your foreign policy. And there is a similar case in Turkey. Turkey also would like to be a neutral country when there are conflicts, when there are wars. One of the global challenges today, if we can now go towards the issue of challenges that we face, both regional and global challenges, one of the global challenges is food security, energy security. Especially when the war started in Ukraine, everybody is now talking about what will happen to the energy provision, energy routes, and what will happen to the food provision, food security. Although it has started regionally, now it has a global impact. So this, I think, will be one of the global challenges that we will face in the future. Indonesia, with a population of 280 million, is trying hard to secure food, because this is a fundamental right of people. We should have access to food. We should have access to security as human beings. What Turkey has done, actually, when the war started, the NATO members and many of the European Union members, plus US, of course, started to criticize Russia, and they have also introduced a number of sanctions. Turkey, right from the beginning, said intervention or the attack of Russia on Ukraine is not based on actually legal reasons or justified reasons. So this war must be stopped. And Turkey is against any kind of war in the region. Turkey is against the attack of Russia on Ukraine. We are defending the Ukrainian territorial integrity and, of course, the peaceful resolution of the conflict between the two. But Turkey did not join the sanctions that was introduced by European Union countries and NATO plus countries. Actually, Turkey was criticized, but we wanted to actually play a constructive role in the region. Now, let me take you back, a little bit back, before the start of the war, almost 2 years ago. In 2004, Russia invaded Crimea. That is part of Ukraine. In 2004. Was it on 2014, sorry. It was 2014. Turkey was the first country that opposed to Russian incursion. Turkey called upon Europe, Turkey called upon the international community, Turkey called on the UN to intervene. Because this will set a bad example if we let Russia to invade and later on to annex the region. And what happened? There was a silence. And Turkey, again, as I said, played a role of warning the whole world. In 2015 and 2016, I was in the Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe as a Turkish member of the parliament. I was head of the delegation. We were the only delegation, actually, in the whole Europe, in the 47 countries almost, to talk about the rights of people in Crimea, because it was annexed by Russia, and it was a violation of the international law. But the European Union kept silence on this one, and the US kept some sort of silence, and the international community turned a blind eye. And when that happened in 2020, 2 years ago almost, 2022, again, Turkey said the same thing. This war must be stopped. And Turkey is the only country that can talk to both leaders, Ukrainian leaders and the leader of Russia, Putin. Actually, it was through the negotiation of Turkey, through the mediation of Turkey, that the grain deal was signed. And through the signature of that deal, billions of tons of grains went to Africa, went to many other countries. That was a life-saving diplomatic mission by Turkey, just being neutral, but also on the other hand, highlighting the international violation of international law by Russia. And of course, there are some other issues of similar kind that the global regional problems can turn out to be global problems. On the issue of Gaza, the Palestinian issue, it looks like a regional issue in the first place. But when you look at the ramifications, when you look at the implications, it is now a global issue. And I am very happy to say that we are on the same page with Indonesia, that the only solution towards the Gaza issue is an independent state of Palestinians, establishment and recognition of the independent state of Palestinian, and also, of course, stopping the aggression by Israel on the Gazan people. And now Turkey and Indonesia actually are working together in the same mission. Our foreign policy experts and also foreign ministers are in the contact group with other countries. They are visiting different capitals in order to press a political solution, diplomatic solution to this issue. I think this is an important challenge that we have today, because what we see in this challenge, the multilateralism, which was actually institutionalized after the Second World War as a international order, yeah, now it is being threatened. Israel is doing whatever it likes, despite the decisions and declarations by the international community, by the UN. It goes on and on its aggression on civilian people. Almost 30,000 people lost their lives. Now there is a lot of damage to the infrastructure in Gaza. There are no hospitals anymore, no schools, no universities, and people are really on the verge of hunger. And this is a big problem because nobody cares about multilateralism anymore. You can see it's a unilateral action by Israel, and again, unilateral action by Russia, despite the fact that the international community is against all these issues. Actually, that brings us to some other issues that we need to talk about. When we are facing the threat towards multilateralism, again, we also see double standards in many places. Double standard in the international, I think, environment. Turkish President Erdogan made some announcements in the last couple of years and still remains in international meetings. Actually, he has two statements. One is quite famous. It's called, "The world is bigger than five." The world is bigger than five actually is a call on the international community to reform the international system, especially UN security system. United Security Council has 5 members. They have got the veto power. Only 5 members. Indonesia has almost 300 million people, but not represented in the National Security Council. There is no one African country in the National Security Council. There is no one Muslim country in the National Security Council. Then, of course, one asks the following question: how representative is this National Security Council? In the last meeting, in the UN meeting, United Nations meeting, which was supposed to call for the ceasefire, humanitarian ceasefire, US has vetoed it. One country vetoed it. US has used its veto power. All other nations, all other countries couldn't do anything else because one country can hold the key. what we see in the UN today, UN is not capable of finding a just solution to many conflicts, including Ukraine, including Palestine, including many other conflicts in Syria, in African countries. And when you look at the origins of these conflicts, there is a lot of, I think, neglect and intervention by the international community in different ways. The other statement by President Erdogan, which echoes the first one, is a fairer world is possible. Actually, he has written a book on that. The world is not just. When you look at the distribution of power, when you look at the distribution of wealth in the regions, in the world, it is not really just. So we must do something about it. If we really want to find lasting solutions to the problems and the emerging issues. One emerging issue, for example, which many of you will be interested to hear, is the global migration. Global migration and refugee issue is not a very big issue for Indonesia today. Why? Indonesia is relatively isolated from conflict zones. But when you look at Turkey, when you look at Pakistan, when you look at Afghanistan, you will see, and also some of the other Middle Eastern countries, actually we are surrounded by conflicts. Today, in Turkey, we have 4.5 million Syrian refugees. And we have 1 million from other countries. Almost 5.5 million refugees, irregular immigrants are now living in Turkey. In that region, now, because of the conflicts in Myanmar, now people are on the move. They are looking for alternatives. Actually, when people are really pushed, they take every risk to reach to a safe place. Now, many boats are on the Mediterranean. Why? People are running away from their countries because of the persecution, because of the wars, because of the climate change or some other disasters, etc. You see, this is a big challenge for us today. And I think we need to address this challenge, and this challenge cannot be addressed only nationally. First, it starts as a regional problem, then it becomes a global problem. Syrian refugees came to Turkey first, but they wanted to go to Europe second. In 2015, almost 1 million refugees went to Europe. You know what happens when there are so many refugees in a country? A number of challenges, a number of concerns emerge. One is security, because you don't know who these people are. They take refuge and you accept them because they are running away from oppression, because they are running away from war. When the first refugees started to come to Turkey in 2011, I was at the border. I was seen with my own eyes. I was working for a think tank at the time, SETA think tank. So we wanted to see how the first wave of migration started in 2011. When the Syrian civil war or the conflict started, many people started to come to northern border of Turkey, southern part of Turkey, to the north of Syria. Actually, the first people who came to Turkey was people with women, elderly, and children. Can you say, don't come to Turkey? Can you say, stop coming to Turkey? Of course, Turkey was obliged to accept all these people because they were running away from war. But of course, later on that conflict continued and still continues. The migration also continued. Today, if I give you the global number, actually global statistics about the challenge of migration, maybe we can have a full picture, a better understanding of the global challenge that we have. Almost 200 million people today, according to UN data, almost 200 million people, maybe more, are living in the countries that they are not born into. 200 million people, some of them legal, some of them illegal. Again, according to UN statistics, Today, in 2014, 2023, 2024, 60 million people are refugees. They are forced, either politically, economically, militarily. And that creates a lot of problems. One is security. Now we see a securitization of immigration in many countries. That creates a lot of problems. Social, political, cultural problems, identity issues, issues of integration. Until now, when we look at the Turkish case, I'll tell you the cost of hosting such a big number of immigrants. Of course, from a humanitarian perspective, we are very proud that Turkey saved millions of people's lives. Until now in Turkey, since 2011, how many children were born to Syrian families? Can you guess, can you predict how many Syrian children were born in Turkey since 2011? 700,000 children were born in Turkey. What does that mean? If we did not open our borders, if we did not allow Syrian refugees to enter Turkey, we wouldn't be able to see these births in Turkey. These kids, these children wouldn't have been alive. Their parents would have been extinguished in Syria. Of course, I mean, as a Turkish citizen, I am very proud that we have opened our borders. We gave a chance to Syrian people to live, to raise their children, okay? But also, of course, there is an economic aspect of it. The Syrians in our country, immigrants in Turkey, have access to free education. They have access to free health services, free medication. And you can see that creates, of course, a lot of economic pressure on local governments, on national governments. And also demographic change is taking place in some places. And so this is something that should be managed, that should be governed. That's why I think Turkey and Indonesia can share their experiences. Do you think I have some more time or we have finished? Okay. I think we have finished almost. Huh? Maybe I can conclude. Okay. Yeah, I think yes, for question and answer session, I should stop here. Thank you very much for your patience, for listening to me. I hope you were not bored because you had to come here. He forced you to come here. Yeah, okay. But you know, when you give the microphone to professors, they endlessly speak. And also, I come from a political background as well. I was member of the parliament for some time, so I also, as a politician, I speak endlessly. I hope that some of the things that I have said maybe can trigger some ideas in your mind. Thank you again. Thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you, Ambassador. So we are not forcing them to attend, Ojam, but this is study hour. This is study hour during this time. Okay. There are some notes that I can highlight from what Mr. Ambassador explained to us. The first one is regarding even though we have distance, yeah, Indonesia and Turkey has a distance, but based on historical record that Indonesia and Turkey has good connection, especially before independence in Aceh. We can witness the existence of the tomb from Turkish citizen that sent by Sultan to help kingdom in Aceh. And then the second one regarding to the distance, one day our professor also from Turkey come to Salemba, to Jakarta, and then she come through Erasmus scheme, Ojam. And then at the time I asked her, why did you choose Indonesia? She said that most of our professor prefer to go to Middle East because of the distance. the flight just 2 hours, 3 hours. But to Jakarta, it's we need to spend 11 hours. That's the consideration. That's why that's the reason why the contact between Indonesia and Turkey not really close, but within their heart they have so close. The third one that I can highlight is regarding the people-to-people contact. Yeah, in Indonesia, people really have good connection with Turkish people. Most of our Hajj and Umrah, the people in the village, they went to Mecca, went to for Hajj or Umrah. They have good connection with the community from Turkey. That's the connection. Also in Indonesia, the people watch Turkish movie. It's very popular. they are watching. So in Indonesia, Turkish telenovela also watched by Indonesian people. That's why the connection is really good, really close. Last time, Indonesian people also very love football. Okay, that's why when Mesut Ozil come to Jakarta, people follow him. so many youngster follow Mesut Ozil because he's Real Madrid's player, and then he also a football player, Arsenal player, and so on. And then the next one regarding the B2B or industrial aspect that Indonesia and Turkey already established the cooperation to establish defense industry. So in Indonesia, we produce medium tank called Harimau. So in Pindad, in Bandung, they produce the medium tank called Harimau. As well as in Turkey, they call it Kaplan, medium tank Kaplan. It means that based on technological experience, Indonesia and Turkey can collaborate. The next one, because some of you from immigration background, what ambassador tell us that number of immigration in Turkey is the number is, I think, the highest number, because when I was in Turkey, the number is around 3 million, but now it reached to 5 million, and then the newborn also around 700,000 children rise in Turkey. So based on Turkish experience that we can learn in Indonesia how to manage migration issues. So how to manage immigration policies. Without further ado, I give you chance to ask the question to Mr. Ambassador. So many questions. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, please, you can give them the microphone. Your name and your answer, your question. Your name and your question. Silakan.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, Your Excellency, Professor Küçükcan. Thank you for your time in our campus. My name is Iwan from National Resilience Studies. I have two questions for you. The first one is, just like you said, Turkey is currently emerging as a rising power in the military domain, showcasing several advanced technologies such as Atmeka missile that Indonesia already bought from Turkey, and then drones, Bayraktar drones, just like you said, almost 35 countries already use it, and then most recently becoming the third country to develop the fifth generation to develop the fifth generation fighter jet. Moreover, recently Turkey agreed with Somalia on a 10-year maritime cooperation plan, which is granting Turkey for full authority over Somali territorial waters. My question is, do these developments signify Turkey's aspiration to assume leadership among Islamic nations and in the region? And then, to what extent does Turkey's foreign policy and vision address these advancements? And the second one, in light of the evolving global challenges, how do you perceive the current state of Indonesia and Turkey's relation, and what initiatives or strategies do you believe are crucial for both parties enhance to cooperation and navigate these challenges effectively? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It's already 3 questions, Hojam. The next one.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ambassador. My name is Arinaldo. I am also a student in School of Strategic and Global Studies in National Resilience and Security Studies. And in day-to-day basis, I also work as business consultant who give advice to the enterprise and the government institution. I have several questions on this session. The first one regarding Türkiye foreign policy. From what I see, there is some kind of unique, if not say it, hard to imagine, that you have some kind of contradictory play of game. For example, you're also the big supporter of the Palestinian independencies, but also you all have diplomatic relation with Israel. You are part of the NATO, but also have a strong relation with the Russian under the Putin government and presidential. So I want to understand, how do you balance the geopolitics and the foreign policy with this situation? Because you also mentioned before that we have a similar foreign policy with Indonesia. That's the first question. The second one, since you are in the proximity with the conflict, Ukraine and also the Palestinians, I want to know what is your opinion about this conflict. Is it gonna be escalated to more severe situation, or also maybe become the World War III, or is it gonna be stabilizing, or could be the ceasefire in the short term? Because you are part of the regional power in the Middle East and also in the eastern part of Europe. And the last one, I want to get your opinion, not as an ambassador, but as academic, since you are a political professor. By knowing and understanding the Indonesian situation, our diversity, our geopolitics situation, and our geography and demography, I want to know what is your opinion and also input for our foreign policy that need to be done to strengthen our positioning and also influence, at least in the South East Asian region, or even more, be the more influential power in the Asia. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador.
Okay, thank you. The next one.
Merhaba, iyi günler. Benim adım Randy, yani ben Jakarta Barat göçmenlik çalışıyorum. Yani biraz Türkçe konuşuyorum. Ama yani ben İngilizce soracağım çünkü yani daha zor yani İngiliz Türkiye. Türkçe konuşuyorum çünkü yani biz arkadaşlar alat racıklar. Tamam. Yani I just want to ask you one question because I'm working in immigration, so I just want to ask how is the development migrant worker from Indonesia to Turkey? When I was studying in Turkey, just a few of students and a few of workers in Turkey, but now it's already developed so much there. And then what I'm asking is, do we need like a special agreement about immigration, for example, like adding immigration attaché in Turkey, Indonesia immigrants attaché in Turkey, to protect and cover maybe workers, Indonesian workers there. Okay, teşekkür ederim.
Rica ederim. Okay, the next one. Is there? Oh, you can.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm here not to question, just practicing my English. Okay, sir. Let me introduce myself. I'm Pekik Oleh Rohman. I'm one of student of Resilient National Studies, yeah, in this university, University of Indonesia. Regarding to your lecture, sir, yeah, I just want to ask maybe a question. According to your lecture, you explained that Turkey has adopted various policies to handle immigration, including managing refugees flows, providing humanitarian assistance, and collaborating with international organizations to seek long-term solutions. However, immigration-related issues also pose internal and external challenges for Turkey, including issues related to social, economic, and political integration. But before I give you a question, I want to thank you to your country who handle all the immigration. I mean the immigrant for the refugee. I cannot imagine it's 5.5 million. You can handle all of them, and with their children too. Deep in my deepest heart, I want to thank you. Yeah. And then the question is, because I'm a migration officer, I just want to ask how you can handle all of them. With what kind of policies do you use? Only that. Thank you, sir. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yang sebelah sini sudah semua ya? Okay. Later if we have time, we give a chance to this side. Floor is yours, Sujam.
Well, as there are many questions, I am going to keep you here 2 more hours. If you want me to give you the full answers, be patient with me. Huh? Well, the first question was about the leadership of Turkey in the Muslim world by using hard power, soft power, especially through defense industry, etc. I think the conditions that Turkey are living in led Turkey to develop that technology. Okay? I just want you to remember that when Turkey wanted to buy Patriots from US, it was not easy. It was not possible. When Turkey wanted to defend its borders, we used to get drones from Israel some 15 years ago. But whenever there was a problem between Israel and Turkey, Israel was not using these drones effectively, or not allowing us to use them effectively when Turkey was fighting terrorism in the southern borders. So that means, I think, when we were not able to get, let's say, full cooperation from our allies, Turkey decided to develop all these technologies on its own. That is what happened in the last 20 years. But of course, investment in that technology started much earlier. In 1974, that is an important year, 1974, when Turkey intervened in Cyprus as a guarantor state, all Western countries started to sanction Turkey. They did not sell any weapon. NATO allies, European allies, nobody. And actually, the first defense companies were established in the 1970s in Turkey. But later on, for political reasons, these companies were not very efficient. When Erdogan came to power, one of his first priority was to revive Turkish defense industry. And he did so, and he succeeded, actually. Now, 3 days ago, Turkey tried its first fighter jet, 5th generation fighter jet, which was 100% made by Turkish engineers. Of course, some parts were imported, but you can see that, I think, Turkish investment in defense industry helped Turkey to become more autonomous in its foreign policy? That is something to do with the question about balancing Turkish foreign policy. Foreign policy will be effective if you have, first of all, hard power, the military, defense industry, economy, and the soft power, the culture, institutions, popular culture, like language cultures, culinary culture, the film industry, and of course, technology that if you have. There is another concept that is used in foreign policy discussions. It's smart power, combining hard and soft power in such a way that they will yield some results. There was a question on Indonesian foreign policy, how Indonesia can become more effective in its region or beyond. I think Indonesia has a lot of capacity and the potential. First of all, G20, you are a member of G20, and you have in this country the richest, one of the richest resources, raw material. But in order to turn this raw material into an effective instrument, you need to have this local production, technology, manpower. One of the interesting issues about Indonesia, when I look at it, Indonesia has a large population, which is an asset if you have good training and education. If you don't have good training and education for the young population, in the future, in the long run, they will become a burden, not an asset. At the moment, they are asset in this country because they are still quite young. Under the age of 30, your population is very dynamic. But what I think Indonesia requires, in my mind, to become more influential, first of all, to secure economic progress, which is almost 4% a year, 5% a year. Secondly, turn this raw material and natural resources into something more economically viable and sustainable. And thirdly, of course, you also need to invest in defense industry, technology. If you cannot do it on your own, there are some countries like Türkiye, which is ready to share technology. As Mohammed said, the tanks that he has mentioned, actually, they are produced partly in Turkey and partly here. There is a share of technology between Turkish defense company and Indonesian defense company. And all the Turkish defense companies like Havelsan, Aselsan, and all the drone makers, they have made announcements on many occasions that Turkey is ready to share technology. It's not only just selling and then saying goodbye, but also sharing the technology. Another question, it was about the Palestinian issue, whether that will turn into a global problem. I think it is already a global diplomatic crisis, if not a conflict at the moment. And of course, there is a lot of potential, I think, danger of overspilling into the regional countries. When that happens, I think it will be like a long-term war, in the 21st century, like in the second half of the 20th century. When the war starts, it never stops. Look at what happened in Yemen. For the last 10 years almost, 9 years, the war in Yemen is going on. In Syria, 11 years now. In Ukraine, many people thought that in Ukraine, Russia will be victorious in 2-3 weeks, and then Ukraine will give up. But nobody was expecting that there will be such a long war. It's been 2 years, and there is no end to that war. That's why I think it is crucial for the Middle Eastern countries and beyond to find a sustainable solution to this crisis. As far as the contradiction between different aspects of Turkish foreign policy, one of our friends asked, while Turkey is a member of the NATO, but also working with Russia, Turkey can, I think, legitimize this because of its own interest. Foreign policy, when it was asked to the late, the American guy who died recently, what was his name? Kissinger. Yeah. When Kissinger asked about the paradigm or the fundamental principle of or objective of American foreign policy, he said American national interests. I think, like, why do you think Indonesia is constitutionally following free and active foreign policy? Because of the interest that you think that it is in the interest of your country. That is exactly what we think. It is in the interest of Turkey to work with NATO on the one hand, but also not neglecting Russia, because Russia is one of the biggest trade partner of Turkey. The trade volume between Russia and Turkey is about $35 billion. It is the reality. And we depend on Russian energy to a large extent. That's why Turkey has to manage that aspect of its foreign policy as well. But it was not easy before. It was not quite possible during the Cold War because Turkey did not have these capacity and the instruments in its own foreign policy. Now, today, Turkish economy is strong. And again, as I said, Turkey is mediating between different countries. And defense industry is paramount for Turkey. And also, Turkey can cooperate with different countries at the same time. And remember, when there was a crisis among the Gulf countries, Turkey was very close to Qatar. And now Turkey is again retuning its own foreign policy. This is one of the abilities of Turkey. Turkey had no relations with Egypt because of the military coup in Egypt in the last 10 years, but now that relations has started. That is something to do with the, I think, foreign policy flexibility that Turkey needs to have in our region. With Israel, another area, we are supporting Gaza fully. But somebody said, again, one of our friends, with a tone of criticism, that Turkey has diplomatic relations with Israel. Yes, Turkey was one of the first countries to have diplomatic relations with Israel, but Turkey was the only country that could negotiate between Israel and the Arab world, Israel and the Syria, Israel and the Palestinians. Because of this diplomatic relations, if you don't have a diplomatic relations with a country, there will be no ground on which you can actually exert your influence. On the issue of workers from Turkey workers from Indonesia to Turkey, there was a question. Actually, I don't have any updated number about how many Indonesians are working in Turkey, but as I said, there are almost 5,000 students. Probably some of them will remain in Turkey. They will try to find some jobs. Maybe some of those students give up halfway through their education and they start working. But of course, there are some legal workers as well, especially during the summer. In tourism industry, we give visa to many Indonesians who would like to work in Turkey. Of course, if there are areas that we need to address in terms of their welfare and legal issues, I think we should sit together and work on this one. So we are ready to establish different mechanisms if there is any, I think, request from the Indonesian side. There was one last question. Who was doing the English practice? How to handle the immigration issue? That's a very big question, of course. And thank you very much for your good words and remarks on how Turkey deals with it because of its open border and open heart, open arm policy. But in the long run, I think there should be different mechanisms and institutions to address emerging questions. One emerging question, for example, with regard to Syrian immigrants, as I said, we provide them free education. We provide them free health services, free medication. As far as education is concerned, of course, in the long run, we need to talk about the integration of these kids into the school system. Then, when they have full rights, citizenship rights or other rights, we need to talk about integrating them into the workforce industry. So these are some of the areas that we need to work on in Turkey, for example. Currently, if I am not wrong, almost 70% of Syrian children go to school. 30% are not in the schools. It is not because we don't allow them, but because of their parents. Parents are not maybe willing to send their kids, or maybe they are not aware of the facilities that the government is providing. But that means 30% of the schools are not, kids are not in the school. That's a big challenge for integration. That's a big challenge for social cohesion. That's a big challenge for the job market in the future. That's why now we have got a new institution within the Ministry of Interior. It's called Immigration Directorate. They are looking into it, but there is a lot to do, I think. And as I said, also when it comes to demographic change, the great majority of Syrian immigrants stayed in the camps when they arrived. But today, only a very small number of people are in the camps. They are all over in the in cities. They are very integrated into the society. But in some cities, they are concentrated in certain neighborhoods, which might create cultural ghettos, which is not very good for the integration into the larger society. In the southeastern part of Turkey, in some cities, we see that almost 20–25% of the population are of Syrian origin. So from a demographic perspective, I think this is something that should be reconsidered. There should be more, let's say, even distribution of immigrant population so that there shouldn't be some cultural ghettos like happen in Europe. When there's a cultural ghetto, there will be a lot of, later on in the future maybe, we don't have in Turkey at the moment, but in the future, there is, in the world, there is a polarization, okay? If you look at Europe, there is a rising Islamophobia. There's a rising anti-immigrant feelings in many countries. In Turkey, some of the political parties, small political parties, have really discovered that if you are against immigrants, if you have anti-immigrant ideology or political discourse, you can get support. That's what we have seen in the last elections in Turkey. Some of the openly racist, anti-immigrant small parties, they receive votes, which is on the increase, I suspect. That's why we have to also deal with this idea of anti-Semitism and anti-immigration feelings and political views as well. This is another area we need to invest a lot. I think these are all what I want to say. If I missed some of the questions, I apologize.
Shall we open the second? Okay. We give limited session for the second term. Any question? 1, 2? Okay, I think 2. Please, name and then your question.
Good afternoon. Let me introduce myself. My name is Reza. I am from Universitas Pertahanan, Indonesia Defense University. My question to the Ambassador of the Republic of Turkey is quite simple, actually. First of all, in your opinion, what do you think about Fethullah Gulen movement in Indonesia? They are well known to build several multilingual boarding school, but in your country, they known for their support from the ETAT against your president Recep Tayyip Erdogan. My last question is, how Indonesia handle this foreign organization, transnational organization, especially Fethullah Gulen movement in Indonesia? Will they become a threat of Indonesian people, or they will become opportunity? As defense university student and the Air Force officer, I think that we must handle this situation carefully, because the transnational organization tends to be tools for proxy wars to the foreign country. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next question.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, Mr. Ambassador. I want to introduce myself. I'm student from Muhammadiyah Universitas from North Sumbalukas. Now, any question from me? I want to ask to Mr. Ambassador. Now we talk about Indonesian-Turkey relation and the dynamic of global challenge. But what the challenge of global? There is a military conflict, so energy transformation. So the issue of immigration. But if what the principle from Indonesian-Turkey relation? There is principle, it's specific from the Indonesian and Turkey relation. So, what there is conflict from the bridge from Global 7 and NATO. So, if we make the new relation from Indonesia and Turkey, what about the principal geopolitics from Turkey and Indonesia? So, there is partnership from Turkey, from Global 7 or North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and Indonesian. There is the politics, how to follow the bridge or follow the Global 7. There is Turkey there, and it is very difficult. And now I want to ask, what is principle from Indonesia and Turkey relation? Geopolitics, history, or concept is like a pluralism. Pluralism for all.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Please, Ambassador.
Well, thank you very much for the questions. First, Reza's question. He asked me about the Gülen movement and its position in Turkey. Actually, this movement has used religion for many, many years in Turkey and outside, and it presented itself as a movement of dialogue, as a movement of peace, etc. And they have established schools in almost more than 150 countries. Of course, when you look at the economic sources, when you look at the other resources that are used, these are not very transparent. In Turkey, actually, over the years, not only in the last couple of years, but over a long time, because the establishment of that movement goes back to the 1960s, okay? And they have had always good relations with any political party who were in power. When there was a lot of pressure on the Islamic movements, for example, this one escaped it. Nobody put pressure on them. And actually, they have infiltrated into every corner of the state. They were in the army, they were in the judiciary, they were in the education system, they were in the private industry, you just name it, in civil society. They established a media empire in Turkey. So that was for a purpose. Over the years, they have culminated that power. And of course, when Erdogan government decided to curtail their power in the state system in Turkey, they started campaign against Erdogan government. For example, they had a big media empire in Turkey, and also they had a lot of training courses for university entrance exams. Because they have established so many educational establishments for the following purpose. they wanted to recruit the best minds for their own organization. And they were successful in recruiting many young Turkish bright students into their organizations. In the judiciary, for example, now we find out there were a group of people who were very much aligned and actually installed by the Fethullah Gülen movement for their own interests. In the media, in the army. And in the army, as our friend has said, in 2016, they have initiated a military coup in Turkey. It's obvious, I mean, all the court cases, all the testimonies, everybody, there is no challenge about that. There is no challenge to the view that Fethullah Gülen and its organization wasn't involved. It is very clear. And of course, the state has seen it as a threat to democracy because the parliament was bombed, presidential complex was bombed by the military who were aligned with the Fethullah Gülen organization, and the Turkish courts have really declared this movement as a terrorist organization. And then what happened? Okay, more than 4,500 judges were kicked out of the state system. You can see how many of them are in the state system, infiltrated. Many from the police institutions, some from the universities, some from the public institutions, they were actually kicked out of the positions because of the threat that they have posed to Turkish democracy and the rule of law. And Turkish government since then have been requesting from our friendly countries to shut down those schools or to transfer them to Maarif Foundation, which was established by the Turkish state. Maarif Foundations have opened schools in more than 100 countries today, and they have got more than 60,000 students in their schools. Some of the countries have transferred these schools to the Turkish Maarif Foundation, and without any loss of time, energy, and loss of educational activity, they continue. But some of the countries shut down, okay? But some countries allow them to continue their activities. As the government of Turkey, we always ask these states that these organization has connections with some other agencies here and there, okay? And this is a very I think a great threat, because if they are having educational establishments in this country, their main purpose, objective is not really to educate your children, but to recruit the best out of them. They usually have students in their schools, sons and daughters of the influential politicians, influential people from the industry, influential people from the judiciary. Because they provide scholarship, they provide other instruments. That's why I think it is time for our friends here in this country to raise this question with the government of Indonesia, that these schools must be either closed down or transferred to Turkish Maarif Foundation, so that our children here in this country will not be subject to any kind of recruitment and brainwashing by this organization. Fethullah Gülen organization is called Fethullah Gülen cult in Turkey. It is not a religious organization. It is nothing to do with Islamic organization. And sometimes people make analogy between Muhammadiyya and Fethullah Gülen organization, or Nahdlatul Ulama and Fethullah Gülen organization. There is no similarity between Nahdlatul Ulama, Muhammadiyya and the Fethullah Gülen organization. Fethullah Gülen organization is an illegal cult organization which was involved in terrorist activities in Turkey. It's forbidden, and the guy who is leading the organization is living in US at the moment. Thank you. The second question is a very complex question. There is no easy answer actually to that question, because we are talking about a lot of global challenges, principles, organizations and institutions. We cannot really reduce them into a formula or into a one sentence that can resolve all these issues. But what I can propose, Turkey and Indonesia can use their soft power, can use their hard power to, first of all, come out with a different paradigm, with a different discourse. Actually, your foreign minister is very good at that. On the foreign policy issues, especially on the Gaza issue, on the injustices in the world, I think there is a lot of areas of cooperation. Remember Bandung Conference in the 1960s, the spirit of Bandung Conference. Turkey has a similar vision when it comes to this issue. Turkey is very active in Africa, not as a colonial power, but as a partner. I think these are some of the issues that we can cooperate. And also there is a format, D8 at the moment, developing aid. 8 Muslim countries are in the same organization, but this organization is not functional anymore. So there might be some revival of this organization, again, by maybe repositioning of our countries and our leaders. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador. Because we are next to the closing session, if you have any conclusion remark, Ojam? Oh, no, okay. So, actually, this afternoon, Mr. Ambassador give us insight based on professor perspective and ambassador perspective. We give applause to Ambassador. Okay, and then I give the floor to Master of Ceremony, Mbak Nisa. Silakan.
Yes. Thank you, Pak Syaroni. Ladies and gentlemen, the next agenda is the presentations of the gift from Universitas Indonesia to Professor Talip. So we would like to invite Mr. Syaroni to the stage and present the gift to Professor Talip. Ladies and gentlemen, finally we reached the end of the Ambassador Lecture Series. I would like to thank to all the participants, and I hope we have a lesson learned from what we have been said for these past 2 hours. Let us close this event by saying Alhamdulillah. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Untuk agenda selanjutnya adalah sesi foto bersama. Kepada hadirin dipersilakan untuk berdiri di tempat masing-masing karena foto bersama akan dilakukan mulai.